Hello, so the next thing I was asked to just talk about were my thoughts on CBT and cognitive behavioural therapy and how that is particularly useful for anxiety and other issues and how it works. Okay, so CBT is pretty popular. It can be seen to be quite a quick fix sometimes. It's not something I practice or would ever practice purely, but I do find that for anxiety it is a particularly good thing to at least I think it's a really good first measure to try. So I'm going to actually link an exercise with this post, and it's a really good exercise just for working with anxiety. It's first of all just got some breathing exercises. So it's based on, I guess you can read it yourselves, but it's based on breathing just in and out around 5 times and just doing some mindful counting and also saying the word relax at different intervals, so that can be something to take an edge off. In terms of the actual changing thought patterns, what we do with CBT, that's also within the exercise, and I'm going to show you an example of that. So how this actually works is basically the idea of CBT and cognitive behavioural therapy. It was developed by someone called Albert Ellis and Aaron Beck. So their idea was like when you're anxious or when you're feeling a certain way, it's all about dysfunctional thinking. So basically what we do is we change the thought pattern and then ultimately our feelings get better. And it does work. There's some sort of good good truth in it. So what I'd like to say is I find it in my therapeutic practice it's particularly helpful if someone has actually just experienced a stressful incident. And I find though that after doing that, like maybe after initially taking an edge off, or maybe even if someone has long-term anxiety, whereas cognitive behavioural therapy is useful, it can be good over time to just to look at how people are really from the emotional side of things without purely the focus on thought. Having said that, I have had a couple of clients. There was one in particular a few years ago, and they'd actually just witnessed a robbery and were feeling very anxious about that, and I guess their dysfunctional thoughts that I get, and the anxiety mixed up with it, like, oh, this has happened, it may happen again, and was walking around and being quite fearful. They actually did the exercise, this anxiety exercise I'm going to show you, then they actually never came back. And well, they contacted me and said they felt this was working well, so they didn't need it. It was kind of like their anxiety was just so focused on this this one issue, and solving that was fine, and then they were free to carry on. I think with other people who have had more ongoing anxiety issues, the anxiety can be manifesting itself in a certain way, which we can look at some cognitive behavioural therapy to help with, I think is a really good first measure. But then other things maybe like just using kind of more person-centred talking therapy and counselling, like really looking at feelings and where the anxiety came from, then working on developing esteem can be a really good way forward. Obviously linked with this too, maybe like medication is also something that can be looked at. So things like citalopram and fluoxetine are things that can be used to help with anxiety too. I'd like to say also that anxiety and depression, they say, are often two sides of the same coin. So often someone with one will have some symptoms of the other. Anyway, the anxiety exercise is linked on, so that's for you to have a go with. And I've noticed a few people posting on the mental health discussion forum too around anxiety, and it's such a common issue. So I think this can be a good thing to try and work with a bit. And this is often what I work with clients with. So here we go. I'll try and get the board right this time. So how this works is when you do the exercise, you have some original thoughts. I don't know how well it is showing up actually. Sorry, the first pen ran out. I think you can see it, and I can explain too. So the original thoughts, which we're assuming likely have some level of rationality in them. So I've based it on the idea of being trapped in a lift, which can obviously be very anxiety provoking. So the main thoughts I've wrote here: I must get out of this lift. I am trapped, and if I don't get out of this lift, I will die. Okay, so that obviously sounds very bad and very dramatic, but the idea is that when we're having these dysfunctional thoughts, the reason we say we can change, if we change the thoughts and the feeling change, is the idea that within the thoughts there's something that's irrational. So you just let it come out, and don't be scared if you find, I guess, writing something like that, it sounds too dramatic, because the idea is that you're feeling something which isn't congruent with the situation. So in this sense, if you're actually just trapped in a lift, then the idea is that probably someone will come and you'd actually be okay, but it's triggering a lot of anxious feelings which aren't really fitting. So just really drill into whatever thoughts you have. The person, one of the founders of this, called this awfulizing. Like, the idea is that we have a thought, then it just spirals out of control and out of control. So it's the ultimate conclusion is, and that would be awful. Like this, it's basically become something that's maybe not so bad has become a real life and death situation. So in your reality, how you're sensing it. So basically, you do those original thoughts and write down a percentage. So here I've wrote 90% for these. So we've got an anxiety which is quite overwhelming around this lift. Okay, the next thing, we write the feelings. So the associated feelings I've wrote here are dread and just anxiety. Then you could maybe have fear or whatever else. And I've put here also the feelings are 90%. So we've got this person here very stressed around being in a lift, like lots of thoughts and feelings going on. So this is something you can use, I guess, if you're in an anxiety situation and being triggered. I guess this is what how I'm using it in this sense. Now next, you can tell here I actually changed pen. So I put the rationalization. So I'll just try and put it around. So here what we're doing, we're really just being very, very sciencey. Okay, we're looking at the original thought and then we're really just searching for evidence. So if everything is true, then that maybe the anxiety does actually match the situation. But if someone with an anxiety issue, it's more likely that the feelings and thoughts you're having don't actually fit the situation. So here we look. So the first original thought was, I must get out of this lift. So to rationalize that, it could well be, well, I would like to get out of this lift, and I likely will be soon. If the person's in there, they've raised the alarm, it is quite stressful, but it's likely someone is going to come. And the second one was, I am trapped in original thought. So here I've done a rationalization. I am trapped just for now. I must be patient. Okay, and then the last original thought was, if I don't get out, I will die. So that's that real awfulizing, life or death kind of thought. And we've put in the rationalization here, I'm okay and things will likely be fine. Okay, so here we're not looking just to, sugarcoat anything. The idea is you're really breaking things down like a scientist and just really looking for evidence of each and everything. But the idea is this is almost like a sieve. We're filtering out the original thoughts and feelings, and then we're coming to an actual conclusion. And I guess then getting to a place that actually more fits what the situation is like. So we had the original thoughts and feelings, which were 90%. So now I've done the rationalization. And if you can see that, okay, so the idea is that it's become somehow filtered out. So we do a re-rate after then. So here I've done the thoughts now go down to 70%, and the feelings also 70%, and then some kind of conclusion. So here I've wrote as a conclusion, if you can see, it's stressful, but I'll likely be okay. Okay, so that's kind of how it works. So the idea is that it should, in doing that, that thing knock about 20% off. It can be a bit tricky to get to work with. So what I often do with clients is I just ask them to send it me through a few times just to make sure they're on the right track. But again, it can be a surface thing. So it can really work when someone's just experienced one specific thing. But often, for example, when I've worked with clients who are overcoming destructive relationships and other kind of traumas, anxiety can become a bit more generalized. So sometimes, whereas something like that can take an edge off, I find like a real emotional, talking therapy can really help too and be beneficial, as well as possibly medications should the person want to take that. But yeah, that's a good anxiety. So I do think it's effective. And particularly that anxiety exercise I find quite good, and that is classic cognitive behavioural therapy, but then possibly mixed with other methodologies if there's to find out if there's more underlying things going on. Okay, so that's the end. Again, please I welcome any kind of feedback, anything that was helpful and anything not, and feel free to post any more questions for next time. Okay, thank you.